You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. Hope you're well. The interview subjects that I've got coming up for you are Garry Gary Beers. Yes, that's right. 2 Garys, 1 person. And Jimmy Khoury. Now, for those of you who don't know, but you should, Garry Beers is the fellow who played bass in INXS for many, many years there. By my own estimation, and we talk about this through the conversation, he's the most listened to Australian bass player of all time. Jimmy Khoury is his guitarist in a brand new outfit, or relatively new outfit, I should say, AshenMoon. The reason for the chat with the lads specifically regarding AshenMoon is to talk up the 2 singles they've got in market at the moment, Dustbowl and Mosquito, and there's a promise of an album on the near horizon too. So let's get to it. First, you'll be hearing from Jimmy Khoury, and then Garry Beers, the man himself, will pipe in sometime through the conversation too. Let's go. Hey Jimmy,
Hello.
Andrew Mackay-Smith, how you going, mate?
Good, Andrew. How are you?
I'm very good. I thought I might have had an Aussie accent come through there, mate, but you're clearly a stateside local, are you?
Yeah, they drafted me as an Aussie, though. I believe I'm one of you now.
Yep, he's an honorary Aussie now.
Good stuff, yes. And you're both in LA, obviously, at the moment?
Yeah, the whole band's together right now. We're rehearsing and sussing out some stuff for the new way things are being done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And look, you've got these 2 singles that are out, and I must confess, I'm not too familiar with the band, but I do enjoy Dustbowl and Mosquito because, look, I'll confess now too, Garry, I'm a bass player, and I've played many of your bass lines over the years, playing on the pubs and clubs, or the stages of the pubs and clubs here in Queensland. And I've got to say, Dustbowl does contain that signature bass groove that I do love about your playing. And look, Mosquito is a bit different in that it's got a bit more of a laid-back groove that rides across the beat. But look, the pair of you have crafted a pair of cuts that they honour the rich musical heritage, obviously, that has occurred between the both of you. So now that I've said all of that, what can you tell me about these 2 songs here? They obviously hint at the promise of an album.
Yeah, the album's going to be out later in the year, but we just chose those as the first 2 songs as basically a double A-side. Just thought it was a pretty good taste of what's to come. Dust Bowl has that sort of 70s guitar riffs and 80s kind of, sort of dance groove, and Mosquito has that 70s fuzz bass, and they both grew organically into what they are now.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. How did you guys actually meet? So how did the partnership actually come about?
I met Jimmy at the first party I ever went to in LA about 14 or 15 years ago, and we became fast friends, but never got around to playing in a band together. He was doing his thing, I was always doing mine, and then I met Toby about 3 years ago at another party, as you can probably hear the theme here, and then he and I actually jammed that night at the party. So I asked Toby to join a band that I had at the moment, a fun sort of corporate covers band.
Yep.
And then Jimmy joined up, and then the 3 of us decided we wanted to write some music together. So we all had listening sessions to what we had, and then sat and started writing new material.
And Garry, with the way that the bass line's so prominent on there, I take it you've had a very strong hand in the writing of the song. So can you tell me how these 2 songs in particular, the writing process?
Well, it's also because I engineered the album, so it was all done in my little home studio here in the Valley in Los Angeles, and so I guess I had a pretty good fair amount of time to make the bass quite prominent. So I was kind of lucky in that department, but I mean, every song developed differently. As I said, Mosquito started with a big fuzz bass, and Toby loved that, and we started writing around that. And Dust Bowl started as the synth pad is actually Toby's. The synth bass is actually Toby's, and so we built on that, and I put I guess my signature bass on top of it.
Indeed, yes, yeah. So, Jimmy, tell us about yourself, mate. Like, what were you up to? You're a very accomplished player, by the way. I can certainly hear that. So, what have you been up to prior to meeting Garry and the lads?
Thank you for the compliment. I've been a pro since I was 11 here in America. And, I came out to LA. I got with the Beth Hart band, and we rode that thing pretty hard for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We got a deal on Atlantic, and then she had a bit of trouble. So when we came off the road, I bought a Macintosh computer in 2003, and I didn't leave the house for 12 years. Literally, I didn't do a gig for at least 7 years. And then in 2007, Orianthi came calling and asked me to go out on the road with her, with
Nice.
Steve Vai. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. You'll learn a thing or two. And, but, my career is definitely based in rock and roll bands and writing and the whole thing. But when I bought that Macintosh computer, the phone started ringing like crazy. I ended up doing Super Bowl commercials, regular commercials, cable TV. I scored the Friends spin-off Joey for NBC, which was
Mm-hmm.
a pretty big gig. It was really great to do. And then for the last 13 years, I've been writing for iHeartMedia, doing 20 pieces of rock and modern rock for them every month. And I just decided in January 2017, that I wanted to get out again.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been away for too long, and I called Garry. Garry was the only person I called. I called him when the new year turned in 2017, and I just asked him what he was up to, and he immediately asked me to come play with his band at the time with Toby, because their other guitar player had split. And I was like, okay, buddy, tell me when, I'll be there. And then that was it.
There you go. Yeah, okay. So it's, I guess the planets must have just aligned then, I suppose, when you talk about the calls coming in after you get the Mac there. But can you tell me some of the, I know you're talking about the Friends spin-off there, the Joey thing, and what are some, here in Australia, of course, we get the Super Bowl, but we don't, it's a bit foreign to us, if you know what I'm saying. It's like the English Premier League. It's on, but we don't really know too much about it, mate. So what's some of the, would people in Australia, outside of the things that you've mentioned, would there be some of the jingles and some of the songs that you've written that would have pierced our consciousness, if you like?
The Super Bowl ad was a pretty big deal. It was Tabasco.
Okay.
And let's see, I don't know if you're familiar with the Beth Hart band or Vanessa Paradis.
Oh, of course, yeah. No, Vanessa Paradis and Beth Hart, absolutely. I'm a musician myself, mate, so yeah, I get it, yeah.
Yeah, you're a bassist.
That's it.
Yeah, I did a lot of work with those two ladies. Beth and I pretty much came up together. We were out on the streets in Santa Monica's 3rd Street Promenade. We had no money. We were down to chips, and then got out on that promenade every Friday and Sunday night, and we'd walk away with $1,000 selling tapes and tips. And at the end of that little period that her and I did, I walked away with a stack of business cards from all these connections, And then I was friends with the cat who's mixing our record here, David Reitzes. He's my lifelong friend, so he set us up with David Foster.
Okay. And
he put us on Atlantic, and that was the rock, right there. Man, that was fun.
Is there, given your partnership here with Garry and with Toby, is there a lot of expectation about what you're doing here, or you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a lot of ambition behind it? In other words, do you want to be heard on FM radio again and that sort of thing, or is it just a case of you're at that stage in your lives where you're just playing music because, well, that's what you do?
We're pretty serious about what we're doing right now. This is a real band, and this is our first record, and we put our heart and soul into it, and it's as I said, it grew very organically, and all three of us had equal input. I produced it with Toby, but everyone's input was just as important as anybody else's. I'm no prima donna about who's in charge. I think it's when you're making music, everyone has to have their input, and everyone's input is welcome. So, this is a real band. I'm looking forward to making more music. We're making music constantly. Yeah. And I know we can't go out and play at the moment, but we're looking forward to getting out and playing again.
Mate, Garry, does this feel like a musical rebirth for you? Because like I've been in a ton of bands myself, and you've been in possibly alongside of AC/DC, Australia's most famous band. But it is hard to work with people in a band environment. So when you find people such as Jimmy and Toby, and it sounds like you guys are mates as well as bandmates, you know what I'm saying when I say that. You can have a beer together and talk about life in general, that sort of thing. So, mate, it is a bit of a surprise to you, mate, that you meet these guys at this stage in your life, and does it feel like a rebirth?
It does to me. I mean, it's I've been in LA for 14 years now. I met Jimmy, as I said, first party I went to, but I haven't found the people to write with. I found people to play with in cover bands and fun projects, and I've written some stuff for jingles and films too. But it's so much more fun to write and play with people that you respect and that you really like as a person too. So yes, we are. We're very good friends, and which comes in handy because the boys spent pretty much all of last year at my house with my family, sitting at the table, writing music and going into my studio. And then just, it's like, it is a surprise at this stage of my career to find that passion and like-mindedness from other people, in my industry.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Garry, I hope I can ask this question, mate, because I do feel as though you've experienced a lot over the years. The events of 1997, the J.D. Fortune episode, some private matters that the tabloid media unfortunately picked up on in 2014. But did you ever think about just saying, fuck it, I'm done, I'm going to move back to the Northern Beaches or thereabouts, and I'm going to give up music and life, that sort of life and life in the public eye, and just sort of forge a new pathway? Was that ever a consideration?
No, not really. I mean, I've got a beautiful wife here. I've got a young family. I've got 8-year-old twins. I mean, that's been my focus for quite a while now. But I mean, music's my life. I mean, it's the first love. I mean, I was a virgin till I was 19, so it was all about music.
Yeah.
So and also AC/DC played at my school dance. I mean, once that happened, there's no turning back. And I was lucky enough to grow up to me at the best time of rock and roll, and with Zeppelin and Bowie and Deep Purple and Queen and all these bands, that little band called the Beatles, like all making new music. And I was very lucky to grow up in that time and be influenced by that. And that's why I can never say fuck it and not be part of music. I mean, I've just been biding my time, waiting to meet the right people, and now all of a sudden it's all coming out.
I was reading online, mate, just in preparation for our chat, that you're a gear nut. I don't know whether that's still the case or not, but do you and Jimmy sort of sit there and compare 1964 Strats and that sort of thing? Does it sort of get down to that level for both of you?
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. And just down the road from here is Norm's Rare Guitars, which is one of the best guitar stores in LA. So, look, I'm a gear nut. I used to have a great collection in Australia, but I don't have them anymore. But I've got my old INXS P bass, the 58 P bass. That's nice. Pretty much it for the old original vintage. Jimmy's got a beautiful old Strat, but at the moment I'm building basses, my own basses. I patented my own pickup and electronics design, and I'm building all my own basses. And I just built a guitar for Jimmy too. So we are gear nuts. He's just picked up his new analog effects pedal board today. So we're in the garage jamming, and he's having a great time playing his new sounds.
So what's next, lads? Okay, so you got this album on the horizon. Obviously, we've got COVID-19 that we're in lockdown, which unfortunately means you can't even get out and do a bit of a road test of these two excellent singles here. But beyond COVID-19, is it the intention to actually come to Australia and go to Europe and, of course, travel across the USA to share these tunes?
God, yeah. I mean, we are players. I mean, that's how we got together, playing and having fun. And during all this, we're still recording. We're doing acoustic versions of the albums that will be on the songs that will be on the album when it's released. We now feel comfortable enough. We've set up in my garage, so we're now back to being a garage band, and loving every second of it. And we're jamming away today. We're going to do podcasts. We're going to try and get our stuff out there as best we can during all this time.
Yeah. That's all you can do, mate. I've done well over 550 interviews at this point. The last 20 or so have been during have been held during this bloody COVID-19 thing. And, mate, all you can do is put your word out there via electronic means and just hope it sort of picks up. But I think the strength of these two singles, mate, it should go a lot more than just a curious glance, I think. So how does it work, lads, these days with getting picked up by FM radio? Do you need an agent to really sort of do the push and the shove that had to happen back in the 80s and 90s? Because it's a part of the world that I think a lot of musicians these days are completely unfamiliar with. So can you tell me how because this is stuff to me that really should be, and you'll know what I'm talking about here, Garry, on Triple M, for example, on high rotation there. So how do you access that market, so to speak?
Well, it is different to the 80s and 90s. I mean, it's a different world, especially now with the pandemic. But I mean, to me, I just believe in the music, and we know that we're onto something with the sound and the songwriting in the band. And so far, everyone that's heard anything off the record have gone crazy, and doors have opened. So, I do believe that that our songs will find their way to radio, because I think we've got something out there that people have been waiting for a while, and it's just an honesty in music and just some good rock.
Yeah, they're not immediate, I'll say that, but as soon as you and that's a good thing from the perspective that, it's not bubblegum. It's not the sort of thing that you'll sort of wrap your head around like a Britney Spears song. This is stuff that a few listens in, I find it, especially with Dustbowl, mate, I think it's an outstanding cut. It's a sort of thing that once it's played sort of 2 or 3 times could really pick up and live a life of its own.
Yeah, it's really been getting great reaction. All across Europe's been pretty amazing to the music too. And this is just the first few singles, and we've got a full album of 13 songs that all the songs are as good as each other, and the songs combined to make a record that's like a good old Zeppelin 3, or like a record that takes you on a journey, And
yeah, indeed.
I think when people hear the whole collection of songs, I think they're going to go pretty crazy.
Gaz, I've got to ask, you worked with Niall and I'm pretty sure Bernard Edwards back in the day. I mean, Bernard Edwards, for me, I've got a big thing here in front of me of Larry Graham. So between Bernard Edwards, Larry Graham and Mark King, they're about my bass iconoclast. But for you, mate, you actually worked with these guys. So is there anything that they taught you back in those days that you're still applying these days in your playing?
Well, when I was working with Niall, I was pretty much shitting my pants, and I'm actually doing the bass track when Bernard walked in. So, I doubly shit my pants. But look, I don't know. Just I learned a lot from Niall by the fact that he's a musical genius, and he's all about fun. He's like, well, we're not playing a note until we get a big plate of chicken wings in here, and everyone get greasy fingers. It's like, okay, and that was it. Just go with the flow and learn as you go. I mean, working with Chris Thomas, working with Niall. I mean, it was pretty exciting times.
Yeah, Niall never played more than 4 strings at a time.
No, and Kurt was learning clarinet at the time for some reason, soprano sax.
Yeah.
And he had a book, like how to play soprano sax book and all the notation. And Niall's like, I got that book. And I'm like, why would you have that book? He goes, well, if you play it upside down, it's notated for guitar, and then you're playing scales that no one's ever heard of.
Oh my God!
Like,
yeah.
I know this guy's really looking to be best.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a genius, actually. I think he's probably the most important musician of all time. That's my humble opinion, at least, anyway. Noel Rodgers. He's had his hand, whether it was with INXS or with Madonna, he's had his hand in so much stuff that it's almost incalculable to label his influence at this point, I think.
Well, exactly. I mean, Let's Dance. I mean, the guy is just a bit of a genius around. And also, whenever we play anywhere near him, we jump on stage and we jam out. So that was always exciting too.
Yeah. Mate, lads, I'll make this my last one. And sorry, Jimmy, I've got to make this point with Gaz, just the last one. It's probably the only opportunity I'll have a chat to you. But Gaz, I don't know whether you've thought about this, but you must be the most listened to Australian bass player of all time. The odds are that you are.
I never thought about it because I'm always trying to get better. I don't think I'm a very good bass player, to be honest. I've
played your stuff
put in the hard yard.
No, I've played your stuff, and it's not that it's technical, but if the thing about your stuff, Garry, is that if you don't get the beat right, if you're not right on top of it, you'll screw it up. And if your drummer's not right on, it just won't happen. I don't know, Mystify is a good example there, that, the doo-doom, doing that stuff that you're doing there. My God, I've actually, there's a couple of songs that I've even said to some of the guys in the band, I don't think we should do this because I don't think we're ready, because whilst they might be deceptively simple to listen to, when you're actually playing them, if you get it wrong, it just sounds completely wrong, and you just think, oh, we haven't honoured the great INXS.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I've been very lucky. I mean, this is my second band, real band. I had Absent Friends, which is a pretty good band too. But I mean, this is officially, I feel, my second band that is a real band. And obviously, I'm very lucky to have had my career with INXS starting from high school. I mean, but we really put in the hard work to get it to sound that good in the first place. And John Farris is a ridiculously good drummer. One of a kind. So I'm very lucky to play alongside him for 30 years too. So, I'll give credit where credit's due. And I was happily along for the ride with the guys from INXS. So we all learnt to play together, and that's why we sound so good.
Yeah, it's the one thing that always annoyed me, to be quite honest with you, and I hope I can make this point. So much of the focus, God rest his soul, is on Michael, but you guys as the musicians, without you guys, he couldn't soar and he couldn't be the superstar that he became. And, having played so many of your songs, I know that even before the voice comes in, mate, people know what they're getting with INXS in terms of, I see the looks on people's faces. It's very similar, mate, I've got to say, to what happens when we play AC/DC. It's just that familiarity across the room. And I've played your stuff in Bundaberg, Billawheeler, Brisbane, of course, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast. It's the same look everywhere you go.
Yeah. Well, look, I just hope that AshenMoon gets the same, listen and the same respect, because, as I said, we got a really good record coming out. And I think Toby's, I'm very lucky to be in bands with two of the best singers, I think, of all time. And Toby's also come to the fore with his lyrics. So we're saying something that I think needs to be said in this world. And I think when people hear it, they'll hear it's just as heartfelt and as immediate as the INXS stuff.
Agreed, yeah. Well, congratulations on these two singles. I can't wait for the album, lads. When it is released, of course, John will send me a copy there, and maybe we can have a chat later on when that does come out. But look, until then, do stay safe. Thanks so much for the conversation, and congratulations on what looks like to be a very promising venture between the two or the three of you, including Toby.
Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah. All
Thanks,
the best.
Jimmy.
Stay safe.
No worries, mate. Thanks,
No
Gary.
problem.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Yeah.
You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. The interview subject you just heard from, Jimmy Khoury and Garry Gary Beers from the outfit AshenMoon. Of course, Garry Gary Beers is the longtime bass player from INXS too. Thanks very much for listening.